Hi, everyone. Welcome to Practical Cosmic Magic. Once again, we're so excited to be doing this every month. It's always a treat. I feel like it also helps us prepare for the month coming ahead. And when I go back and read my notes for the days, it's always so helpful, right? Like future me is like, hey, thanks for looking out. And I feel like at the end of the day, that's spirituality, like looking out for future us. But welcome back. We're so excited to be here with you. This is July part one. We're recording on the 4th of July, American Independence Day. And I think they can share with us a little more about the Pluto retrograde about to happen in the US in a couple of days. But before we go in there, we want to say hello and welcome you. And yeah, Thea, how are you today? What's up? Thea just got back from the farm. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, nature, right? Taurus North Node. It's July. We actually have a once every 15-year meetup between Uranus and the North Node this month. So it's a very, very interesting time to see what's happening in the world stage. And as you were saying that, Karina, I got reminded um, of our recording of our space study last year when we were talking about the eclipses, and it's always so refreshing to connect back to our higher selves when we're speaking about these transits on a different light and then watching it play out when we're like exactly like you said, ooh, thanks for the tip a few months ago, but now that you're here, I feel like sometimes we can never really truly be prepared, but it helps to prepare nonetheless. So hopefully what we're doing here every month is helping you as much as it's helping us navigate the very challenging and interesting times that we're living in. It's such an amazing time to be alive, I feel.
Truly the most interesting time to be alive with so many distractions, but so many things that we can like activate, so many things that we can tap into, so many powers that we can take advantage of. But then really just it's funny because it's like there's so much going on around, but the magic here is really just cultivating presence in every single moment because there's so much we can be doing and tapping into. But if we're doing all of that, are we really here? And if we're not really here, is this really life? That's where I've been.
100% though. I mean, with Jupiter and Aries, and we had that very interesting new moon in Cancer when everyone
Yeah.
was like, ah, there's a beautiful aspect with Jupiter. It's time to create new things and start new. Da, 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 da. But oh my gosh, I don't agree at 100%. I think really the next 14 months is really about cultivating presence, like you said, because of everything that's happening outside. How can we always go inside and realign? Um, so, yeah, I guess with that, let's jump right in. For tomorrow is such a big day. So, we're recording this on July 4th, like Karina said. So, we'll start with the 5th. Um, yeah, handing it over to you. What do you see? What do you feel?
Ooh. So tomorrow, Mars moves into Taurus and Mercury moves into Cancer. And then they're going to have sex, as Thea says, because they're going to be sextile in the sky. Um, I have Mercury in Cancer. So I see this as you were saying a while ago, a doozy, because it's nice and it's empathetic and it's intuitive and it's, all of these loving things, but it's also so dramatic. It puts such a dramatic view on our words, on our intellect, on the way we think. It gives us like emotions as the first hand view when we're wondering like, oh, why did someone do that? And then we're like, oh, they must have done it because of this. I feel like it's very like that, especially with Mars entering Taurus, because they're both feminine signs. So there is that protective mother side. Like, of course, there's the loving mother, but there's also the protective, jealous mother. And for some reason, that's what I'm seeing coming out more, especially with Lilith in Cancer. Um, but also, I mean, I think it's going to bring about a really nice and significant shift in the tides from Mars and Aries, which is so loud and strong, to Mars and Taurus, which is more sensual, more deliberate, more careful about the action that's being taken. And then Mercury in Cancer, even though it's dramatic and even though it's sometimes overly emotional, there's such a gift in sitting back and witnessing these emotions and what kind of heights these emotions are eventually allowing our minds to reach. Because then it's realizing, wow, my mind is so often tuned into this frequency. How can I turn it up a bit or down a bit to see it from a different perspective? Um, yeah, I think I feel a lot of that. And I also feel like power to the people, right? And power to the woman. Like the woman is gonna start speaking up. And I'm shivering as I'm saying this. So I'm gonna turn off the AC. But when you get vulnerable and you start speaking what's on your heart and everything just becomes like fluttery. But I feel like this is such a key thing to happen right now as these abortion laws are happening in the United States, like for women to speak up and just own their power. And this keeps taking me back to Doctor Strange. There was a part in the movie Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, where Wanda was like, bring America back to me. And this is like the witches being like, bring America back to me. And I said it from the day after I watched the movie, like that was the significance. Little did we know what would happen. Goosies. So yeah, I think what I wrote here is, I'll just read it because now I can't even think anymore. But I wrote, both Taurus and Cancer have a link to the mother archetype. And so I feel that within the next month or so, we'll have more unfolding when it comes to the power of the feminine when she steps into her self-worth. It will take courage and it will take knowing how worthy we are to then embrace the assertive middle ground of Cancer rather than falling too far into the left of passivity and nor too far to the right of aggression, which will definitely give us a taste of the side that's been suppressed for far too long. I'll share with you a practical tip and then I'll pass it on to you to share how this feels in your body. But for me, a practical tip is come back to your boundaries, especially living in your physical body. Like, how do you ground energy? How do you move energy when it feels like it's too much to handle so that you don't have to retreat into your shell, right? Mercury in Cancer. And how can you make your surroundings pretty? So that you don't want to be escaping your home all the time, because this is Cancer energy. Like, how can you make your home somewhere you want to be instead of somewhere you feel like, this is too much for me, I need to get out of here? Because that's Cancer and Taurus. How can you make your home so beautiful that you feel safe? Passing it over to you. How do you feel about today? And then you want to lead us into the seventh.
Yeah, sure. I like how you said that it's really about perspective also, because the Pallas Athena is moving, just moved into Gemini. And tomorrow again with all these movements. And I feel like that's what I said. There were a lot of astrologers who talked about the new moon energy, that it's a time to start something new, that it's a time to break new habits and fast forward because of the Jupiter aspect. But I'm seeing here with Mars and Mercury, these are two planets that actually coincide with speed. Whenever I see Mars and whenever I see Mercury, also Uranus, what I get energetically is speed. Mercury is quick. Mars is intense and decisive and wants action, very like to the point. And then they're moving to water, feminine signs. They're going down. Mars entering Taurus, the most steadfast, earthy, stable, grounded sign. And Mercury entering Cancer, that's the waters of the womb, your stomach and your digestion. I just feel like, whoop, hold on a second. It's our drive and our action and our mental mind actually asking us to slow the way down and go back to our bodies. How do we feel? And especially with Mercury in Cancer, and Mercury is going to be in Cancer until like for the whole of July. No? Ooh, I have not seen. Please let me know. He's going to be quick. He's going to be traveling Cancer quickly. So he's going to be out of Cancer in the middle of July. But while he's in Cancer for like 15, 14 days that he's in Cancer, he's going to be ruled by the moon. Yeah.
So Mercury is in Cancer from the 5th until the 19th. And then in Leo from the 19th till the 4th. Like it's really quick little bits.
Mercury moving into 0 degrees Leo on July 20th. Thank you. Yeah, so what I'm feeling here really is from now until the 20th, when Mercury moves to Leo and then Sun's gonna move to Leo, our emotions might feel too much because we're feeling a lot of things, but we don't want to talk about it. I feel like Mercury in Cancer feels all the feels all these empathy, but then it doesn't always speak its mind. With Mars entering Taurus, there's a stubbornness that's being injected into it. Whereas, wait a minute, I'm feeling what I'm feeling. I'm not super open to anything else, right? Crab shell. That's the dark side. The light side here is knowing this, hopefully knowing this, we can switch and look instead, how can we use this time to talk to family, to talk about, familiar matters, to talk about how we can feel safe, like Karina said, feel safe in our home, feel safe in our bodies. And with Mars intensifying our bodies, because wherever Mars enters, or wherever Mars transits, it heats up. So what I'm seeing here biologically, there can be a lot of inflammation with Jupiter still in Aries. Tempers can still fly high, and boy, are we seeing that play out in the world stage, especially in the West. Hopefully here we can just remember to be kind, and we can remember to be open as we remember to take care of ourselves first, tend to our inner earths first. Because, and I think I said this last month, that the people are just dealing. And oftentimes we are not equipped to regulate our nervous systems because we're always in survival mode. I mean, the systems and structures that are in play and in place do not fully support the feminine, the yin, the rest, the creative side. It's all about doing and being productive. And so anxiety may fly high, emotions may fly high. We have Chiron transits this month. So hopefully, whatever comes up for us tomorrow and whatever shift, if we're feeling stuck or if we're feeling like, oh my gosh, where did the air go? Where did all this action go? Where all of a sudden you're just feeling like you're trotting through tar? Know that this slowdown is just a period of time. It's all just a period of time. And it may be a contraction, but it's just an exhale. And we can always just take the next inhale. Hopefully with a more steady base. Yeah, is what I'm feeling for this day, especially as Mercury sextiles Mars. There can be mental assertiveness, but hopefully we can use that to come up with practical solutions, how we want to move forward this month and for the second month of the year. Were you trying to pull a card?
Yeah. We have two cards that fell out, just as you were saying, like we're kind of moving away from the masculine energy and towards kind of creative energy. Hello. Creative energy. So we have the Queen of Wands and we have the Six of Wands. The Queen of Wands is playing with fire, playing with her passion, standing for what she believes. Looks like she's sitting within a bonfire or something. And surrounded by candles. So just tuning into joy and tuning into our passions. Like, yes, it may feel like a slower time, but it's a welcomed slower time. So we can feel deeper into what we want to do, into where we want to go, what we want to create. So that when we do create, it's more purposeful and we're actually then able to stand in our light and stand for what we actually want to do, because we've done the work to like feel into everything that feels good for us. That once we know that, we're able to own it and stand for it, I feel like. Yeah, so it's really a coming back to this. It's funny because the wands is masculine, right? It's fire, but then it's still like women on these two cards, which is basically, I feel like, a symbol of feminine creativity, like the feminine coming in and working with Mars, which is the planet of action. So working with it in a way that maybe Mars is not used to being worked, but it's such a, I feel like, a beautiful weaving that's meant to be done under the surface.
100%, especially Mars and Venus sign and Venus in Gemini. I feel like they're still heart and mind. Mercury and Cancer, it's really heart and mind trying to work together, not one overpowering the other, but more like how can we, like you said, how can we weave the energies of both? And leads us to July 6th. For me, this is a big day because that's Sun in Sirius. That's the Sun and Sirius gate. So Sirius right now at this day and age is at 14 degrees Cancer, and Sun is going to be at 14 degrees Cancer on July 6th. I can actually spend an hour just talking about Sun and Sirius, but just to sum it all up, this is a new year for a number of ancient civilizations, ancient Egypt, Dogon tribes in Native America. This area of the sky, 14 degrees Cancer, is known to be by the ancients as the great cosmic womb. Sun and Sirius are actually brothers. Our sun has a brother as a twin star, which is Sirius. And it is believed that this great cosmic womb is the birthing place of many, many galaxies and many stars. And it is also believed that this, because it's the womb, it's where we also return. So that's where souls return. That's the area where souls come to life, but also that's the area that souls return. And how I'm feeling energetically with this gate is going back to, again, what are we returning to? Where are we returning to? What are we here for? And can we come back to that again? It's all about, we keep talking about, it's all about joy, it's all about passion, it's all about happiness, which is our birthright. But I feel like this period of time, it's a remembering of that. It's not finding happiness anymore because it's not like something that's lost. It's a remembering that it's innate, that it's in us, that we are birthed into this life, earth, world, universe, whatever noun, pronoun, word you want to attach into it. We are here as a part of a greater tapestry. And as soon as we are able to return to this truth, and as soon as we are able to come home to this truth, Sun and Cancer about home, then hopefully we can all come home to a better world and a better future that we're all weaving and co-creating together.
I love that. That made my heart smile. I have my midheaven at around 11 degrees of Cancer, I think, and Venus at 8 degrees. And so, as you were saying that, I was like, a return back to love again and again and again. And it's such a trip because it's easy to say, like, I am love and I return back to love. And put someone that like really triggers you in front of you and then say I return back to love, right? It's
100%.
not as easy. It's not as easy. It's easy to do it when things are like this and when we're doing fairy talk.
Mm.
But then when it's like a car that's cutting you, or when it's someone that's overtaking you in a line, it's like, give me a break. Can you not? And so I feel like the invitation here is, how can we just remember that these are all, which leads us into the seventh, these are all wounds playing out, and people don't know better how to talk about their wounds and how to share their wounds, and so they're being aggressive about it, or they're lashing out. Little kids, right? Little kids would cut a line. Little kids would go sneak in front of you without knowing. These are unhealed little kids running all over the place. Our communities are filled with them. And this day, we also have the first quarter moon in Libra. I feel like it's also a portal day, right? Because it's 7-7. And so on this day, we have Venus sextile Chiron, and Venus is in Gemini and Chiron is in Aries. And I feel like this has the energy of finding beauty in our scars, kind of like tattoos. It's making something that was once painful beautiful. Like, there may be a feeling of wanting to conform, but then we've got the tools and resources to understand what our inner self needs to feel seen and heard. And with Mercury in Cancer, like, how can we create a safe space for ourselves where our wounds feel like they can get some fresh air and heal and be pretty, rather than constantly dug like deeper and deeper and deeper and forming lasting patterns. And because the moon is in Libra, I feel like this is moving away from people pleasing and moving into what feels good in our bodies, in our minds, like what makes us want to heal our scars, what makes us want to wear our scars as beautiful badges, as tattoos, because we're so happy to show off our tattoos. Imagine if we were just like that about our scars, right? Like, ooh, this hurts me, but I know that it's made me who I am today. So I'm not afraid or embarrassed to share this with you. Like, I feel like that's such a gift. Practical tip for me for this day is journal about how you can use your scars to beautify your tribe's lives, and in the process, heal your own wounds.
That's beautiful. I also see Chiron in conjunct with Uranus. And in conjuncts can be frustrating aspects because they don't see eye to eye. They're right in the middle. So Uranus is in conjunct Chiron and it's in conjunct Venus. And I feel like this is an invitation to shake up where we have been overly attached to our wounds too. Yes, it's beautiful to show them as scars, but for us to be able to stand with a certain level of confidence and stand with a certain level of grace within those scars, there is vulnerability that has to be crossed. We kind of have to step into the threshold of, okay, I'm being vulnerable and I'm okay to accept whatever your response or your reaction is, because you are already able to, stand in a certain place where you have a certain disattachment from or disassociation from those wounds, because again, they can just be battle scars, right? And with Uranus there, it's shaking up our ability to communicate how our past wounds or our ancestral or lineage karmic patterns have been dictating or controlling how we actually deal with our relationships, our normal relationships. And this is an opportunity for us to shift and change that and initiate a new way of relating or interrelating. Yeah, and the next day we have Sun squaring Chiron. Um, a lot. This I feel like this is a big week and a big energy, big Chiron energy, with just all those wounds out in the open for people to heal and people to deal with. My practical tip really here is just try to understand or at least try to find meaning for compassion. What does compassion mean for you? Let's start there. And then maybe practice the meaning of compassion as you do. because oftentimes we can just talk about compassion or empathy, but not a lot of people really know what it means. So if they don't know what it means, how can they exhibit such? So maybe we can start there. What does compassion mean for you? What does empathy mean for you? How do you want to receive compassion and empathy? And is this something that you can reflect and give out? Um, as above, so below, as within, so without, right? So let's start inside.
Beautifully said. Yeah, it's really a loud Chiron week, and where we don't have Chiron, we have Jupiter. Where we don't have Jupiter, we have Mercury in Cancer. So it's a lot of triggers. It's a lot of baby energy. I feel
Said.
is what it is, right? Like wow. And so it's how are you gonna handle the baby? I'll share with you a little random story that I figured out today. So I was born on a Monday. And so today I was super like flowing with the morning. I didn't force myself to do anything that I didn't want to do. I took it at my own pace. I was journaling. I was, going easy. Um, and then I learned or like had this realization that Mondays are so natural to me because I was born on a Monday. Now, before we say that sounds a little too energetic or crazy, this literal body, the first time it breathed like this air and felt this stuff was a Monday. So of course there's a home familiarity there, right? That feels like it knows something. Anyway, so just a little note to find out what that day is. What was the day that you were born? And feel into how homey that day feels for you and how can you capitalize on that, especially, and I don't want to actually say capitalize because I don't like that word. How can you how can you amplify that energy, especially through Cancer season? Like find that home day for you and make that the foundation of your week so that you have footing, because that's what Taurus likes. Taurus likes footing. Taurus likes rhythms. Mars and Taurus will want a rhythm to go about it, but will not want a routine like Virgo will give you. We cannot stick to that. Like Taurians can't do that yet. That's why that lives in Virgo. But Taurus, we need a nice little rhythm that we can flow through and just feel into. Um, but yeah, find that homey day for you so that you're then able to have that one day where you dive into this Chiron action, dive into these wounds, dive into these emotions, so that at least you allow yourself time and space to feel into them before like the triggers where what we're urging you to do is step back and observe when you're triggered, right? If we're doing that like in the moment, then we need to have that time that we're screaming or shouting or letting out or journaling or something by ourselves, so that when we're in the company of other people, we're able to bring out that uh, civil version of ourselves. Um, And I feel like that leads us into the ninth with Mercury squaring Jupiter and watching our words and making sure to use kind words, because Aries and Cancer, right? Mercury and Jupiter, these are both big energies, I feel like, because Jupiter is expansive and then Mercury is communicative. So they both have a big effect on both ourselves and other people. And with Aries and Cancer, like Aries is sometimes very authoritative and Cancer is sometimes very clawy. And so where is the fine line within, I guess, understanding our power and knowing how it feels to be in that power and what does that power feel like? Because once again, I feel like with so much Aries energy, there's a lot of power energy. But then I think it's important to keep coming back to, is it an abuse of power or is it power in the way that we can make magic out of it, that we can touch lives out of it? How do you feel?
I feel like this is a day to temper our promises, where we can feel like we're overcommitting or we're over promising or we're mentally pushing the limits as we learn or understand or explore the bounds of our minds and our knowledge, this can also be a lot of emotional baggage. Mercury and Cancer, a lot of emotions that we're not able to, or a lot of emotions and we're not able to communicate effectively anymore. I'm being called to invite you as a practical tip for this day is understand what your stress response is. Whenever there's big emotion or there's an explosive amount of reactivity you feel like that you're about to have, instead of, because it's easy to say let's all take a step back and see how we can respond, but like you said, when you're driving and there's a car that just cut you, the impulse is like, whatever your stress response is, your impulse is going to be that, because that's your natural response. And it takes a long time to break a natural response, especially being in an environment that does not support us to shift our response, which we are now. And with all these energies, you know, all these energies that are thrown our way, this is not a natural response that we're asking you and inviting you to do. But again, that's where we're here, right? Because we just want to come back to love, and because of that, we see what love isn't, and we learn where did we unlearn love, and how can we learn love the way we understand it now. And as a beginning to start, I mean, Mercury square Jupiter, both cardinal signs, a lot of initiating action, a lot of, yes, I want to do this, I want to do all of this, let's do this. Come on, let's talk and strategize and analyze how we can strategize everything that we want to do for the next 6 months, for the remaining second half. That's a good thing if that's what you feel like you're called to do. But if not, here's an open invitation. If your stress response is always in a fight position, how can you shift that to, let's say, freeze, wherein you're trying not to use or lose your temper, where you're trying not to use harsh words. Let's say your stress response is you freeze and you dissociate. How can you take more of the Aries fire and try to assert, try to talk, try to express? Again, all open invitations. And when you fawn or you flee, what would happen if we aligned with Mars in Taurus energy and stood our ground and be like, no, not today? This sounds like a Game of Thrones play with death. No, not today.
That's so powerful, though. I bought a book the other day that says that's called Just Say No.
Mm,
And it's the power of, it's just this little handbook teaching you the power of saying no, which is, I feel like, as you were saying, like it's all a matter of coming back to love and understanding what's not love. And I feel like sometimes the reason we can't understand what love is anymore is because we don't know how to say no. And because we're always saying yes. And so we don't know where the boundaries lie. So then everything then becomes duty or an obligation rather than something that we want to do. And I feel like this is very Jupiter and Aries energy, like very diplomatic to a degree, because it's right opposite Libras, right? So there's still that diplomatic part of it that's like, I gotta do the right thing. I gotta say yes. This is my duty as a human, or as
mm,
a Cancer, Mercury in Cancer. This is my
Mercury
duty
Cancer.
as a family member, as a daughter, as a wife, as a,
Mm, mm,
um, and so I feel like another invitation could be notice, or maybe this can be for the 10th, like understand the different roles that you're playing in your life, especially when it comes to the feminine roles.
mm,
And I say this because on the 10th, we have Sun sextile Uranus, Cancer and Taurus. And then we have Mercury conjunct Lilith in Cancer. And this is the different roles. Like when, and even if you're a man and you're watching this, you have a feminine aspect to you. You have a feminine side to you. And so, how can you understand this feminine side of you and the different roles you play within this? And if there is a power leak going on, I feel like, how can you come back to owning the power and remembering that you have what it takes to carry this power within you? With Sun sextile Uranus, like there are so many breakthrough feelings, so many breakthrough I guess feelings. I just want to say feelings, because Cancer and Taurus and this like Venus energy mixed with the moon is just so feely and so motherly, but then it's also so abused. And so when something has been abused this much, there is a fight. And before you get like that loving, caring mother, you get the fierce, angry mother, the fierce, angry feminine. And I feel like this is a day that we might get to see a little bit of that fierce, angry feminine with Mercury conjunct Lilith in Cancer. And I don't know how we're going to see it. Maybe, of course, because we know that this is coming, we can channel it for our own selves, we can channel it. But on a collective scale, it will be really interesting to witness what happens outside, especially since this is, I feel like, right around the time that the US is going to have its Pluto.
The second.
Yeah, the second Pluto return while Pluto is in retrograde. Would you mind sharing like a little bit about that?
Sure.
What does that mean, and what is that feeling like, and how is it playing out in the world stage?
Ooh, I just got goosies trying to contain my thoughts. But with all this Uranus action, that Sun sextile Uranus, this is a take up to the streets action. And we haven't really been talking about Aries so much, but Aries in 25 degrees of Aries has been having this square with Pluto in Capricorn since 2020, beginning of 2020, and it's going to play out for a long time. So with this Aries, Aries is the goddess of discord, is the goddess of disharmony. But what we don't see, what we don't see with Aries is how it's playing out right now in women, and also the queer, the indigenous folk, the lesser folk, where they're saying no. Basically, they're shaking up, they're taking to the streets, they're fighting for their freedom. Uranus also rules freedom. Uranus also rules revolution. It's the planet of awakening. It's the planet of shakeup and breakup, but it's also the planet of revelation. And with this Pluto and Capricorn, revelations around the plutocracy, or revelations around how systems and structures put in place by the West that have ruled most of the world, if not all of the world, to this day, that is being revisited. This is also the time when, let me just contain my thoughts, but that there's just so much history around the United States. They fought Britain, Great Britain, UK, for their freedom. But that freedom is still being ruled by the plutocracy. What do I mean by the plutocracy? This is the elite, the 1% that rule everything. It's still the oligarchs, the quote unquote leaders of pharma, big companies, what have you. This is the plutocracy. This is Pluto also. The owners of wealth, or the controllers of wealth and gold, are mostly underground. That's why we call Pluto the Lord of the Underworld, because we don't see them. They're underground. And only a select few, only the elite, have access to this. With Pluto and Capricorn, and their Pluto return, the US's Pluto return, this is a revisit of everything that has been hidden, all systems and structures that have been in play that we do not see. They're all being revealed, and they're coming up to the surface now. Everything that was repressed and suppressed, and there are so many intersecting repressions, so many intersecting issues that we can spend hours speaking about. Roe versus Wade, gender equality, Racism, racial rights, LGBTQ, all these things, these are all now up for Uranus, for shakeup, for breakup. And Sun sextile Uranus, this is interesting. This is going to be an interesting day to see what's actually going to happen to that Roe versus Wade case. A lot of women are not taking it as they're not taking it. They're still coming up with inventive ways. This is also Sun sextile Uranus, innovative, creative, inventive ways to return or get their power back to themselves, at least sovereign power. And with this Lilith action, this is really all about, hey, you guys, let's all get together because we need to empower ourselves. With Aries here as well, it's really fighting for the underdog and not, they're not bending anymore. They're not bending over, they're not bending forwards or backwards anymore, but they're standing up. They're standing up for their rights and they're standing up for freedom. And this Pluto return, we felt it in February. The first one, we felt it in February. That was when the news of that war against Ukraine came out. There's still a lot happening under the scenes that have yet to be revealed, but Uranus also rules nuclear power. I have not been following the Ukraine thread anymore. It's too much for, it's just too much. But I don't know. It's going to be an interesting time to see what's actually going to happen with all the NATO. I don't know. The last I heard, Finland wants to be part of it, and all these things. So yeah, Pluto returns only happen in nations, four nations, obviously, because it happens only every 280 years, and no one gets to live that long. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting time for transformation and change. Oof.
Thank you. That was big. That's huge.
Is yeah, yeah, I think we kind of have to spend a certain amount of time to really dissect what it can mean, because what's happening to the United States happens to the rest of the world. And we're seeing trickles of the Great Resignation. We haven't even touched up on the Great Resignation yet, but we're seeing trickles of all the changes and all the transformations that are happening in the West. We hear things like the old world is dying. It's the birth of the new world. Old structures are crumbling down. It's easy to say it. Like lip service is very easy to render, but to actually deeply dive into and understand how we got here, how they got there, and what can we actually put into place so that we won't just repeat patterns of history. Because much of what we're talking about here, much of astrology is actually just cyclical patterns playing itself out. It's different because it's a different time, but it's the same harmony. What changes is also the level of consciousness of humanity, wherein they can actually participate better because they're co-creating versus just blindly dancing with the harmony, which is also what's happening now with all this Uranus action and Sun sextile Uranus. That's awakening energy. And we just had a Sun Sirius gate the previous day. A lot of esoteric potential levels of awakening, if we can talk about that. This is practical cosmic magic after all. A lot of magic basically is happening because a lot of people are also realizing that they are magic, that they can create magic, and that they have been creating magic through words and their thoughts and their frequencies and alignment and energy. So yeah. Oof.
Yeah, that's big. I had something I wanted to say, but I totally lost it. I trust it will come back if it needs to.
Oh man.
uh, Oh, okay. I remember. So this morning, as I was thinking about this whole Monday thing, I was also thinking about how a birth chart um, of a country or of a place or of a human is a default framework of how something or someone can behave. It does not mean that we are always behaving that way, and it does not mean that that's the way it's always unfolding. It's a map that can get you somewhere, but from this somewhere, it now depends on your own consciousness to be taking yourself higher. It's not a map that will give you the end goal. It's not something like the Bible that tells you do this and this is where you'll get. And also, who's to say that you'll get where you do when you do what the Bible tells you to do, or anything for that matter, right? Who knows where to go to do what? But basically, everything that you just said, and astrology is just a framework. It's just a framework based on research. It's based on patterns. It's based on studies. And so, yes, we may be giving you guides based on astrology, and we may be trying to understand the cycles based on the astrology of the moment. But at the end of the day, it's really coming back to what feels right for you. And how does it feel right for you to ground all of this energy? I was watching a workshop the other day where I can't remember her name, I'm so sorry, but she's an astrologer, and she was saying how we need myths and we need stories and we need astrology because it adds this magical layer to the chaos that we're witnessing in our daily lives. Like, we need something to make it remotely entertaining or exciting to tune into, right? And for some people, that's the news. Maybe that's why some people are so addicted to the news. For some people, that's social media. For some people, it's different things. And so I feel like this Pluto retrograde is like, what is that for you? Like, what is your ticking bomb? What is your nuclear weapon? And also, what is that thing while the whole US is transforming on a personal level? Like, what is that big program that needs to be transformed for you? What is that big thing that has been showing up for you again and again from the darkness, from the dark side? I feel like we're in Star Wars now. But Pluto retrograde, it's a recurring theme of darkness that's coming up again and again, and everybody has their own recurring theme. What is it for you? Because if we dissect deep in a human experience, right, all of us go through the same damn emotions every day. It's just different levels of it. And it's just different layers. It's an onion being peeled to different degrees, and it's different volumes, right? We all have every single sign, but depending on the planets or depending on what you're responding to, depending on your environment, different things are turned up. So we can tell you so many things about the way that we see the definitions of these planets. But at the end of the day, that's why we just keep saying, witness yourself and come back to love. It's not because it's easy. It's not because we're telling you that we do that, but it's because, to me at least, this is all a map of becoming more conscious, becoming more aware, so that we're living our lives rather than our lives living us. I was reading something in Satguru's book Karma earlier, and if you'd allow me, I would love to share it with you. I typed it out because it feels so real. Can I share it?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm gonna read it. It says, being spiritual does not mean sitting under a tree half asleep. Being spiritual is not a disability, it's an empowerment. It does not mean limiting your sphere of activity, it means enhancing it. A spiritual person can cook, clean, walk, work, manage a business or a nation, do anything they want, and still be spiritual. For such a person, their very breath is a spiritual process. This could happen if their awareness rises beyond a certain level, if their love transcends certain limitations, if their physicality is very intense, or if the vibrancy of their energies goes beyond a certain level. A spiritual person is one who has found action in inaction and inaction in action. Spirituality is about dynamism and stillness co-inhabiting within you to give you a taste of living death all the time.
Mm. Oof.
It's a big one because, and I feel like these are the themes coming up again and again. I was recording some voice notes to one of my friends that I voice note back and forth with, and what we were talking about is spiritual ego and righteousness when it comes to spirituality. And I don't know why all of this is coming up. Maybe this is all related to Aries and Chiron and whatnot, but there is just such a huge spiritual ego. And we think that we're here in the spiritual community to heal wounds and to heal ourselves and to do all of this. But at what point does it become because we want to keep sharing the gift versus at what point does it become because we're looking for recognition, because we want to be seen for what we're saying, because we want to be heard for what we're saying? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But then how can we become aware of what our purpose is here? Because with Instagram, for example, it's tricky. We're looking to see who has liked our stories. We're looking to see who has liked our posts, but we're not sharing for the likes. But if we're not aware of this and we're not in this, we can get so wrapped up in the illusion of all of it, because this is all an illusion. Like everything is an illusion. Everything is simple, but we make it all an illusion. And like you were saying, all of these people in control and power and everything that's happened have created this illusion that's playing out, and that has been playing out forever. So to a degree, we don't even know what's the illusion anymore, because the illusion is what we've grown up with as real life, right? Any one of us that's below 40, our entire life has been part of this illusion that has been fed to us. And that's why there is so much darkness, so much depth, so much anger, so much red. I just see red, so much red coming out. And we need to allow the red to come out for us to then soothe what's coming out. But I guess the question is, where do we find grace and where do we find structure to put the red when it comes out? Because if the red is coming out and there is no structural foundation place, exactly, there's no container, it's overflowing everywhere. Nobody knows whose responsibility it is to pick up on that. But then when there is a structure, it's almost like humans that feel like they can give tap into the structure and are like, okay, let me take this, I can take this, versus let's all unleash our crazy and let's all make everyone else responsible for handling our crazy. I don't know. I went on a little thing post your Pluto retrograde, but I kind of feel like that's a bit of the energies coming up, especially I think with Neptune retrograding in Pisces now too. It's all like, oh my God, the illusion is louder than ever.
Neptune also rules the media. So if we're the type who actually looks to the media for real life events and updates on the world stage, then that's a question that we can ask ourselves is, are we feeding ourselves? What kind of perspective are we actually feeding ourselves? Because we know that's actually a source of fear. And it's easier to manipulate nervous systems that are, again, in stress responses. There is no space. There is no spaciousness for levels of empathy and compassion if everyone is fighting for survival.
Jupiter and Aries, fight or flight.
And all this Chiron, yeah. I want to survive, so I am fighting for my survival. Even Lilith in Cancer, I am fighting for my own sovereign right to be on top, not necessarily like whatever Top means to be on top of what I need to be on top of to be alive, to be here, to be a thriving being in this floating rock. And for us to be on top, that means there are people under, which is a plutocracy again, going back to the hierarchy, going back to the Capricorn structure. But that is what's being dismantled in front of our eyes. So, of course, and we say this all the time, when and if the ground beneath us is shaking, where can we find stable ground? Right? I mean, we are all held on this earth by gravity. And if that shakes up and breaks up, how the hell can we expect our human bodies to stand? There's nothing to stand on. So going back to that container. Blood is death, but blood is also life, which is like Scorpio Pluto energy. And this is all about power plays and power struggles. But like you said, and that line, what you shared from Sadhguru is just so beautiful. Power actually means empowering. But we have been taught for the longest time that power means ruling over, controlling, suppressing, and all these things. And
abuse. Power is so closely linked to the word abuse. I hate it.
So much to heal. So great. Thankfully, we have all this Chiron energy to help us deal and heal with all these ancestral wounds of colonization, of ruling over, control and domination, which is just so, it's part of our history. It's part of who we are. It's been part of who we are for thousands and thousands of years. And this is going to lead me to the age of Aquarius, but that's another 2,160 year conversation.
How many years do you have for this conversation? How long are you willing to listen?
But of course, we can always cite sources because we've been talking about all these things for a while. We've been talking about this for 2 years now, but now that we're actually in the middle of it, and watching ourselves when we recorded that 2020 space study is like, wow, you ladies, do you even know what you're talking about now that it's happening? We talked about inflation.
Even see what's coming. Yeah, exactly.
We talked about inflation. We talked about digital currencies and cryptocurrencies and all the food resource, whatever that can come in our way with the changing of the guards in Scorpio and Taurus. But now that we're here, yeah, we're here and we're playing a part in it and we're still making magic. So hopefully we can keep it inspiring you to also create your own magic. Leading me to July 12th when Sun sextiles the North Node. Which again, I want to share a bit about the North Node in Taurus. This is body. This is our bodies, how we can embody, how we can actually take care and nourish everything Taurus and create beautiful form from the intensity of Scorpio, what we're trying to leave behind, South Node in Scorpio, manipulation, intensity, everything that we talked about, the plutocracy, wealth and desires. How can we actually use our passions to transmute and create tangible magic out of that? We have a beautiful supportive day, a little break from this crazy week. But for those of us who are actually also having their nodal returns, like me, it has not been easy because Taurus energy does not want to move AF. It just wants to stay and be like, I'm so at home here and I'm enjoying my peace and my deliberate stubbornness. But with this sextile with the sun in Cancer, this is an opportunity to mother this new way of being, mother this embodiment, and protect this vision, or protect a medium, so that we could my words, so that we can continue to create from a place of higher vibration, love, joy, happiness, instead of all that lower vibration, which is so easy to be in because of everything that's happening outside.
I'm officially welcome you. See, I was gonna say I'm officially welcoming you to Mercury and Cancer, where we sometimes forget how to speak like words. What are words? Because sometimes we just have so many thoughts and so many feelings that it's just impossible to get these feelings into words fast enough because they're coming at the speed of light, and then it's just like, and it's 9:44 as I say this. Beautiful. I love that you were saying that, and sun sextile north node, because I was pulling a card and this is exactly what fell out. This is the Page of Pentacles. It's the first in the court cards of Pentacles, and Pentacles is earth. And so she's learning to work with earth energy. She's learning how to weave. She's standing on her shoes. I always imagined her standing on, I don't know why, I always thought it was ice skates because it looks so like thin under there. But it's more like, I think she's growing from the ground. She's at the root. Yeah. Oh, the root is growing around her shoe, actually. And so it's understanding, how do you want to live in this material world? How do you want to help people? But first, how do you want to help yourself? Because if you're not helping yourself, you can't help anybody. So how do you see this material world? How do you want to live in it? Is there anything you need to learn for you to be able to tread lightly, or for you to be able to handle it easier? Because the other card that fell out is, this is a local deck, actually. It's called the Quiet Mystic deck. It's an oracle deck, and this is Swan Sensibilities, which says external calm, internal labor. And over here it says, cruise through the strongest currents, balance your hustle with a steady sense of calm, float freely. And I feel like that's so
sun sextile north node.
Exactly. And also so sun in Cancer, moon in Capricorn, that we know what we want to stand for. We know what our goals are. We know what the structure is. Now, within this structure, we're able to flow freely and kind of float. But until we create the structure, there's really, I love how that flew, because there's literally shaky ground. There's nowhere to stand. Practical tip for this day, what would you say? Sun sextile north node.
Be. I'm really called to say be. It's not an easy time to be in our bodies. It's not an easy time to actually just be, because we're not supported for being. But on this day, if we can just allow ourselves that space to be without trying to do anything, then hopefully what we're needing to become, North Node, this is like what we're here to evolve into, can come to us. Because if we're too busy meeting people, Venus and Gemini, hearing and learning so many things, going left and right, then how are we enjoying the moment? How are we really measuring life? Not that life needs to be measured or anything, but how are we flowing with the current? Because I feel like, okay, so the vision that came to mind, it's like there's already a wave. You're already riding the current of life, but you're still paddling. And I feel like that's just so counterproductive.
Yeah.
I mean, you can ride the wave. Why are you still exhausting yourself paddling? If you do that, you're not able to enjoy the set, because you're
Rushing away.
so, yes, exactly.
Yeah, I like that. I want to add feel. Be and feel. Be in your body, Mars and Taurus, and feel everything, Mars and North Node and Taurus, and feel everything that comes your way, because it's easy to escape, and it's easy to tune out, and it's easy to drop into the emotion But then if you just allow yourself to float through the emotion, like feel it to its depths and then let it go. Because, I was listening to something, maybe you would know this based on psychology, but maybe it was Sahara Rose's podcast where she was saying that the height of an emotion only lasts for 2 minutes. And so can you imagine like all of the anger, fear, like suffering, everything we feel, the height of it actually only lasts for 2 minutes, but we give it so much power to take over our whole days and sometimes our whole months and sometimes our whole lives. Wow, how much time, how much energy can we save if only we chose to ride that 2-minute wave so that after those 2 minutes we're transmuted to a degree, alchemized to a degree. Maybe there is no huge notable change, but because we sat through that wave, we have new insight, we have new experience. It was a wave, and wave always comes with like, whoosh, it always washes something back and brings something forward. So I love that. Yeah, be and feel, you guys, and think of us as your being and feeling. We will be and feel with you. Which leads us to the 13th, which is Mercury square Chiron and Venus trine Saturn retrograde. With Mercury square Chiron, I'm feeling this energy of feeling our wounds or feeling our fears before communicating our fears, or feeling our feelings before communicating our feelings. Because with all of this Aries energy, there's so much like, I'm feeling this so deeply that I want to share it with you. I want to tell you because you deserve to know. You deserve to know, right? But who says that? Like, who said that you deserve to know? I feel like there's somehow a link in our mind about sharing what we think because people deserve to know what we think. But then why do people deserve to know what we think? That's very self-righteous, right? And I don't know, I feel like I've heard it so much, like, you deserve this. I wish you get what you deserve. Actually, maybe an invitation for this day is look at where you use the word deserve. And what does it mean to you? Because this kind of reminds me of Venus trine Saturn as well, like abundance versus karma and what you're supposed to be receiving, whatever supposed to is. But can you define the word deserve? It sounds a little out of the box, but I'm feeling called to ask us to do this. So I'm going to do this as well. And I think there's just a big need to mother on this day because Mercury in Cancer, squaring Chiron and Aries, this feels like the crying baby that just wants to be hugged. And then Saturn retrograde in Aquarius kind of wants to kick your ass and tell you where to go. But Venus is like loving on it and being like, here, let me share with you a little more love instead of you having to be so angry. But then because they're both in air signs, I feel like that's also very loud. Like this is a day with kind of loud energy because we have a lot of cardinal energy and then we have a lot of air energy. And so I really feel like it's coming back to seeing ourselves and holding ourselves and back to the home that we created where we feel safe. But also not too safe, because the downside of Mars in Taurus could be not taking any action because we don't feel like any action is safe enough, especially with such triggery times on the outside. How are you feeling this?
I feel like this can be a potential day to... This is a potential day for feelings to get hurt if we're not being mindful of the words that we use, especially with the people that we are in relations with. But with that Venus trine Saturn retrograde, this can be an opportunity to break away from friendships or relationships that really do not work, because then you are able to communicate the hurtful feelings. There's no way to sugarcoat Mercury square Chiron. There's actually no way to sugarcoat Chiron energy, because Chiron and energy's gift is, here is your wound. How can you deal with this? But it's gonna stare you right in the face. Like Karina said earlier, it's like wearing your scars and your wounds like a tattoo. Of course it's gonna hurt, it's gonna bleed, it's gonna like it's gonna peel and it's gonna be itchy and all of that. But you have to go through the process before it can actually become before it can be appreciated as the beautiful skin artwork that it is. But you have to go through the process and that potential excruciating pain for the art to come out. So, what I'm getting here is the art in your heart won't be able to, we won't be able to appreciate that if we won't go through what we need to go through, feel it to heal it, right? But this time it's say it, say it to get it out of the way once and for all. And we have that Saturn retrograde energy, and it's a Venus trine, and this is a harmonious, beautiful gift with that Mercury square Chiron, where here you go, you have a potential for a deepened conversation, or um, to dive deep into matters that really matter to you, especially in close personal relationships. But you got to say what you have to say. And Mercury in Cancer, Moon rules Cancer. Moon is almost full that day, and Moon is opposing Mercury. Um, Moon in 17 Capricorn and Mercury in 17 Capricorn as the day progresses. Um, yeah, I feel like this can be a day where we potentially have to make some painful decision, but we can only do that if we are able to dive deep into ourselves and really align with our values. At the end of the day, when we're aligned with our values, yes, it's gonna hurt. It's like peeling off that bandage, right? But 2 minutes, or yeah, whatever we have to deal with, we kind of just have to deal with. Kind of have to bite the bullet this day, you guys. So a practical tip for me, before we reach July 13, can we actually journal which relationships do we feel like are more triggers than chargers? We had this exercise in our Aries new moon circle where Karine actually had us journal what situations and things can we put into the bucket that are actually chargers. Chargers meaning they charge us, they empower us, they make us feel good, versus which ones drain our energy, which ones are triggers. So maybe we can do that with our relationships, so that when July 13 comes, we sort of already have a readiness, or I don't want to say armor, but I'm going to say armor just because of this Cancer and Aries and Mars energy. We have an armor because we are coming prepared. We did the work of diving deep into ourselves and asking what is in alignment and what is not, and then have that conversation.
So maybe a good day to do that journaling would be on the 7th with Venus sextile Chiron, with the first quarter moon in Libra, because Libra is relationships. And the practical tip that I gave earlier was journal about how you can use your scars to beautify your tribe's lives. Do that on one side, and on the other side, do when, or like, who are the people that are wounded or like who are triggered by your scars. When you share your scars, who are the people that are triggered, and how can you understand why they're triggered? Or maybe you can also ask, who don't you want to share your scars with, or who do you feel like you're not comfortable when you're being vulnerable with? That way, from the 7th all the way until the 13th, you're kind of feeling into these energies, that when the 13th comes, you're not so shocked anymore, but instead you're able to use that Gemini and Aquarius to be like, I'm leaving my community to move towards my tribe. And I think that's a gift because that will allow us to really do our work in this world rather than do just the little things that we do for the sake of doing, you know.
Amazing. Beautiful.
Which leads us to the 14th. The 14th is the full moon in Capricorn, 2:37 a.m., 21 degrees, 20 minutes of Capricorn. On the same day, we have Mercury going to sextile Uranus and then going to sextile the North Node. And then we also have Venus in Gemini square Neptune retrograde in Pisces.
Busy, busy day.
What are you feeling?
Busy day.
How does it feel? How does it feel? I feel like I keep needing, like after we got past the 9th, I've been needing to take such like deep breaths talking about these days.
I know. July, wow. Whew. How do I feel about this day? I'm looking at the chart and I'm actually looking at the nighttime already, where most of the action would have passed. And what is being called to me here, because it's a supermoon, if there is an opportunity for you to watch an inspirational film instead of, you know, being all guns and blazings, guys, give yourself a break from after that July 13, whatever comes up for you on that day. Just give yourself a break on the full moon and allow the energies to culminate. Full moons are culminations. It's the peak of the energy. Plus, it's a super moon. So, we say eclipses are like full moons and steroids, but can be like maybe this is like a full moon on Red Bull, just because it's a full super moon. And with Capricorn, I'm still gonna go back to then where. How are we feeling aligned or misaligned? And I feel like this is also a very beautiful time to align with our ancestors before colonization, before all these Asians and isms, and how can we heal them or heal our relationship with them, healing the relationship with the earth too. And this isn't really a day to think, although there is an impetus to do so. Um, with that Uranus action and that North Node action, really the energy that I'm getting here is art. Go to an art museum, watch an inspirational film, give yourself a break from everything intense that's happening outside. Um, yeah, is the energy that I'm getting for this full moon.
Or maybe create art to allow yourself to feel deeper, to allow yourself to
100%.
integrate the feelings that you're feeling. Like the
Yep.
biggest thing I'm getting with this day is integration. Like you said, alignment or unalignment. Like, are we living a life of integration? Are we living a life of integrity? Or are we living a life where we're feeling all of these things, but never really integrating all the things that we're feeling? Because those are two different things, right? Empowered people empower people, but also hurt people hurt people. And so which one are you aligning with? Which one are you working with? I was just recording a video about Cancer and Capricorn today. And with Capricorn, it was just so much about understanding that, like we were saying earlier, there needs to be a structure to hold the feelings. There needs to be a cup to hold the water. And so on the full moon, how can you feel into what that cup is for you? Whether it's an inspirational film, like you said, whether it's art, whether it's creating art, or maybe even journaling, because it's a full moon in Capricorn, right? It's an earth sign. So maybe you might want to write, but maybe you just might want to spend some time in nature and feel and be and create, because Cancer and Taurus, those are both very creative signs. They're both like motherly, and when you think of a mother, you think of creation. But you will only give yourself that space and time to create if you feel like you're worthy of it. And with Capricorn, there's a big invitation to remember your worth, just as there is with Taurus. And so, how can you remember how worthy you are just because you have this human body? And to be like, we blew it out the park today and we spoke about everything. So to be very honest, who knows how long we'll have these human bodies? Who knows how long planet Earth will survive? Who knows how long? Like, yes, maybe Earth will survive for the next 5 billion years. Maybe Earth will explode tomorrow. Like, nobody knows. And so really, I feel like the invitation of this day is, like you said earlier about the other day, just be and feel. And life is a gift. And so how can we be so grateful that we get this life where we're able to do whatever we want to do and make all these choices that we make, so that we're eventually able to reach a state of mastery, which then allows us to create magic. That's Capricorn, right? It's getting to a state of mastery because you've done something again and again and again, that finally the foundations, the basics, the systems, that you can finally be like, all right, you can get out of the door. Now I'm going to feel my way through it. And this is what we do as well with intuitive astrology, right? We know the basics, but then we're like, okay, but right now we need to be talking about Pluto retrograde. And so that's what we're talking about. It's feeling into what's coming up. And I think it's such a gift because these voices, and I think Cancer season is bringing like our gut responses up, right, to the surface. Listen to what your tummy is saying. And it takes practice. I think that's a big thing that I want to say for this full moon is life takes practice, integration takes practice, feeling takes practice, and expressing your feelings in a way that feels good to you takes practice. And so my last bit of advice would be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself. That Cancer has that Cancer has claws, but Cancer is also the mother. Cancer can also weave things together as your little weave dream catcher.
I know. We were talking about the full moon.
Yeah, come back to your feelings, come back to how things feel in your body, because more often than not, we get these hints from our body and we ignore it because we say, no, you're wrong. Like, I must have a lesson to learn here. Or no, you're wrong. You're just making, or no, my tummy just hurts because of something I ate, right? That's my classic thing. But now understanding that, no, your belly is really talking to you and you're not crazy. This is real. And Cancer season makes it louder than ever. And so what is your belly saying to you?
I like that. And I also like what you said about integration, because then this is a perfect time for you to reflect what intentions and goals did you set on January when we had that new moon in Capricorn. And now that we're actually headed towards we are on the second half of the year. How have you been after the first 6 months of what feels like a long time, but no time? Where are you? How are you integrating? And I am called to say, remember, titrate. Titration is just going as slow as the slowest part of you can go. Mars in Taurus, right? And we said this also last month. Healing is a lifelong journey. And with all this Chiron energy, with Venus trining Saturn the day before, so this Capricorn moon is still being ruled by that transit because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is at home in Aquarius because Saturn also rules Aquarius. We are getting reverberations of that Venus trine. Go as slow as you possibly can, especially since you're going deep. The vision that's coming to me from dive school, I talked about surfing, I'm going to talk about diving. We have to take care of ourselves when rewind. When we dive, Depending how deep we go, there is also time that we have to spend on a certain depth level. We can't just ascend instantaneously the same way that we dove. We usually dive faster and ascend slower because our body needs to acclimate. And that's what's coming to me because we're diving deep with all these Pluto action. There's so much change also because of this Uranus action. If we try to ascend faster or faster than our body allows, then of course, that's what you get. So we have to regulate, we have to titrate, and we have to listen to our bodies with all this North Node and Taurus. It's really about embodiment, revolution of embodiment. Uranus and Taurus, right? So,
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Revolution of embodiment. Revolution of humanity as well. We're coming back. Power to the people. So thank you. I pulled some cards to kind of sum up everything that we spoke about for this. And we'll record part 2 somewhere probably after the full moon so that we feel into those tides. But the cards that I got for right now is the Five of Cups, emptying whatever needs to be emptied once and for all. And maybe we're focusing too much on the stuff that are already emptied, but then there is still a beautiful cup here once we're done emptying this. And so it's how can you just continue purging, continue emptying so that you can create more space for what's beautiful. And you'll know when you know, right? For the timing, and for when you're done titrating and for when you're done like emptying and purging, you'll know. It's kind of like love, right? When people are like, oh, how did you know that he's the one? You'll know when you know. And so, yeah, I feel like the energy right now is just so constricting and so like, stay in the void, stay in the void, stay in the void, stay in the void. But then if you don't feel like you need to be in the void, get the heck out of the void. And so again, you'll know if you know, trust that tummy talking to you. Maybe you're keeping yourself imprisoned for too long just because you don't want to deal with the accountability that comes with owning your power. Maybe you're focusing on what you're letting go of constantly and what you don't have, but actually you do have so much. It's just a projection that you're limited and don't have much. Because as we already know, and this is the same card as last time, we have the tools. We are magicians. We have the power. We have every single tool we need to be able to witness ourselves from a whole different perspective, to be able to create a more embodied experience. It's not about getting out of our bodies to be able to live in this earth. It's more about maybe coming out to see things through a different perspective and to remember the freedom that we have, and then taking that freedom and integrating it back into our bodies. And essentially, I feel like taking that power back with these two, it's really about remembering that we have the tools and that we are able to liberate our own selves from the crows and from the ties and from the blindfolds, because at the end of the day, we're the ones that are looking the side that's empty. We can be looking the side that there is a full bowl that's filled with colorful, fun things. And then 2 oracle cards are, as you said, the vision I'm having, this fell out, the visionary. And this is thriving from the unexpected. I feel like this is very much Pluto retrograde energy, right? And also Uranus energy. It's all of these shakeups and all of these breakups, but all of these breakups come with something beautiful to bear. And so what is that something beautiful that they're bearing? Are we allowing ourselves to see it? Are we allowing ourselves to delight in it? Because this is the summer afternoon card rather. And it says, delight in the life you've created for yourself. And so at the end of the day, all of these cards are literally just saying that we create our own lives. We create our own state of mind. We create our own environment. What are you choosing to create? Are you choosing to create an environment and a mindscape where you're limiting yourself and where you feel constricted? Or are you creating a reality in where you know you have all the tools, you know what it has, you know you have what it takes to really just see things from a different perspective and bring that into this body to be able to guide more people to be able to see from the perspective that they are meant to see from, not from your perspective, but instead from their heart's perspective, I think. And that's God's work at the end of the day. I want to end this by asking you, what do you think God's work is?
We are God's work. Yeah, that's all that's coming. And the sooner, hopefully, that we realize that, then yeah, without going so overly existential and esoteric. But yeah, thank you for that question.
Yeah, the sooner we realize it, the sooner we own it. The sooner we own it, the more people we have that are conscious. The more people we have that are conscious, consciousness becomes currency. And when consciousness becomes currency, welcome to the age of Aquarius. And so I feel this may be something we're building up to. You feel this may be something we're building up to. A lot of astrologers feel that this is something we're building up to. But like I wrote a few days ago, we're in the moment that it's so uncomfortable and that we don't want to stay still at all. And yet staying still is what gives us grace and beauty and perspective. And so thank you for staying still with me. Thank you for talking astrology with me. Thank you all for listening to us speak astrology and for humoring us with everything that we share with you. We just flow. So thank you for flowing with us. We appreciate you coming back and sharing your energy. Whenever you're watching this, we know that your energy, wherever you are in the timeline, is contributing to our energy right now as we're recording this. Last words?
Thank you. See you at the quantum.
See you soon. See you in part 2 of July. And until then, you can reach us, if not on Discord, on Instagram. If not on Instagram, close your eyes and think of us and we'll be there.
As God's work.
Exactly. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Bye.